I fell so far away from the Lord when I was trying to please people because I fell into what was fun for them. When I would go out to the bars and take a shot and do whatever, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm sad. Life is hard, but God loves you. He loves you so much that He wants the best for you. And I think if only people knew that, they would care about themselves more. Starting middle school and high school, I always claimed a Christian. I always knew that's what I believed. Yeah, I had like questions and curiosities of, oh, you know, like, well, God's real, then who made God, or things like that. But that never really bothered me. And I think it's because I grew up in the Holy Spirit and I always felt the presence, and I've always felt protected and always knew like somehow everything was going to be okay. My family, when there were problems, like, we didn't really speak about it because we kind of just knew God had something planned. And that's what happened with my mom. You know, when my mom was going through a divorce with my dad, she prayed about it. She prayed with the pastors, and it's not the best look to get a divorce, obviously, and you know, like, you should work things out, but at the end of the day, like, truly your relationship with God is personal. And for my mom, God told her that she needed to leave. If she wanted a better life for her and her kids, like, this wasn't going to serve her anymore, and she needed to trust God and leave. She didn't have any money, and that's what you see a lot in these days, is these women who are married, who go through abuse, and these dads will abuse on their kids, and they never leave because they're too scared. You know, like, what am I going to do? I don't have any money. Where would I go? And my mom just took a leap of faith and didn't care what was going to happen. And as soon as she did that, she met my stepdad. And we lived in Grove City for a very short period of time, but we lived in such a small house. It was like a shed. Like, it was the smallest little house ever. But throughout that year, you know, she was just trying to figure it out and trying to get back on her feet. And my stepdad took us in, and that's all I've known. That happened when I was like 2 years old. So all of it is very fuzzy memory, but I mean, I think my mom is just so like powerful for doing that, because it's a very hard decision, especially when you care about somebody. It's like, it's a whole other conversation. There's only so much you can do when they're not willing to think that there's a problem.
Yeah, it takes two in a relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like going into addiction too, it's like, it hurts multiple people, not just whoever's doing the harm to themselves. And you can tell them as many times as you want to stop doing it, but if they deep down in their heart think that there's nothing going on or there's not a problem, it's like, this is bigger than me and I have to give it to God. And that's what my mom did. I mean, she did wait a very long time. She had my sister, who's 6 years older than me. So she did wait 6 years. She was very patient.
With your step?
With my dad, with my real dad.
Oh, really? Okay, got you.
Yeah, so she had my sister with my real dad.
Oh, okay.
And after 6 years, she started to realize how he was as a father figure. She really wanted to have me because she didn't want to just have like one daughter. So she and the pastor's wife prayed a lot about her second baby. She was like, I want to have another daughter, but with what I'm going through, I don't know if that's the best idea. So her and the pastor prayed a lot over my existence, like a lot, because my mom was 40. She was like, I gotta make a decision now, or it's like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And for a month, she prayed every single day. And long story short, she became pregnant with me. And she was like, you know what? Just because I'm pregnant doesn't mean I'm not going to leave. You have to get your stuff together. She had me, a year went on, nothing changed. And she just left.
Yeah.
But yeah, fast forward, I grew up with my stepdad. He was an amazing father figure. I mean, when I talk about my father, you know, like I talk as if he's my dad. He'd be like, oh, like my dad, even though like in my brain I know he's my stepdad. That relationship's very crazy itself because he had another family before meeting my family. Yeah. He raised 2 kids. He was married. And so when he met my mom, his other 2 kids were already in college. And he's now 70 years old. So he raised a whole other family after already raising a family.
Completely restarting over again.
Like completely starting
over. At
over.
an older age, yeah.
And I think God did such a miracle in his life because he told me he wasn't the best dad to his kids. And I mean, he worked a lot. He was very strict, you would say. I don't know, like back then, you know, it was like, you know, he didn't care about hurting anybody's feelings. You know, you could kind of just like say whatever you want. It wouldn't be like personal, you know. So that was definitely like who he was. He wouldn't let his kids mess around, and he was just very harsh on them. And he kind of like put a dent in their relationship, I would say, almost. So he would tell me that and saying like, you gave me like a whole nother opportunity, you know. And I've always seen him get emotional when we're at church, and I've never seen him be anything but a great dad for me. And I don't know, I think he's very special in my relationship with God. So seeing all these like miracles happen for people in my family, I always knew God was real. I didn't have a doubt. I've seen the peace and joy that he's put in my parents' heart and just like the work that came with it. And my older sister, we are the complete opposite. We were not close my entire life. Like not even a little bit. So she's 6 years older than me. I have my stepdad who's raising me and my mom who's raising me, and they're all older. And I mean, like, when it came to me being independent, I felt like that's how I grew up. I never got anything I wanted. Like, never. Like being spoiled, there's like 2 different versions. Like, yeah, we went on like family vacation every now and then. Like, we lived comfortably, but if I cry to get something that I want, it did not happen. You know, it was like, knock it off. If I would try to talk, like no one would listen to me. We would sit at the family dinner table and my sister would be the only one talking, not me. And I was like, not okay with that. I just knew that's how it was. So there was a big resentment between me and my sister. There was resentment because she got more of a burden with our real dad. Growing up when we were little, we did the back and forth for a while. It didn't work out just because he wasn't sane or sober or whatever. So he would yell more at her than me because I was so little. And when we were over there, she was parenting me. You know, she didn't look at me like a little sister or a friend almost. It was like, I need to take care of her. I need to tell her what to do because our dad isn't, and I need to protect her and all that stuff. So growing up, that's always the relationship. If I ever like wanted something, she would just like kind of parent me and tell me no. And my mom had to intervene a lot, and she's like, Taylor, like, you're not the mom like I am. Like, and she would even like be more strict than my real mom. It was crazy. Like, I had a lot of parents on me. So I kind of, in middle school and high school, at that point, I have grown up in church. I went to a lot of kids camps because my sister was a youth group leader too. She did the youth group. She was a youth group leader at Cypress for high school, middle school, and that's why I got into it. And I learned a lot about the personal relationship with what that meant. It went from like being a little girl, like, oh yes, this is what Jesus did. Here are the stories. Jesus died on the cross. He was born in Bethlehem, and just hearing those type of stories. And I mean, I'd hear it, but I really didn't connect to it.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, you started like worshiping and like praising, and praising felt more intimate to me in middle school and high school. And I think just because you were emotional and growing and puberty and all that stuff, and just like trying to figure out who you are and what friends you have, that was such a big thing for me in middle school and high school. I think that's like the definition in that age time, is like who your friends are is kind of who you are.
Yeah. Even now.
Even now, yeah. But I think it felt like a priority to have friends.
Yeah.
Like if you were alone, it was like not an option, I felt like. So I was very obsessed, I would say, to get people to like me. I would be nice to everybody. I would go over and beyond to do anything anyone would ask me to do. Because I wanted to, like deep down in my heart, like, yeah, you would say, oh, they're just gonna walk all over you doing that. Like, I didn't even know that was the thing. I was like, why would people walk all over me? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, I'm being super nice to them. In my eyes, I'm just being a great friend. I'm treating people the way I'd want them to treat me. And I think this is an amazing thing. So I thought I was gonna get like a great return in doing that. And I just did not. Yeah. I in middle school, like as hard as I tried, like I'd always get left out. And I broke a lot of great relationships that I met through the church. I had friends in the neighborhood, in my neighborhood that I grew up in, so many, who went to church camp with me. But when we were in school, there was a whole other group that I wanted to be a part of. The popular group, of course.
Who doesn't?
Thought I could get in it. And I would spend so much time and energy trying to be liked by them that I didn't realize these fruitful friends that I had with me throughout that whole time. Yeah. So I definitely lost them when it came to high school. And I just became a whole different person. I wasn't the same person who I was. Even if I wanted to be friends with them again, I just like didn't even have the same interests. I fell so far away from the Lord when I was trying to please people, because I fell into what was fun for them, which was going to parties, social events, doing social things, and just being a fun person. And I looked at my other Christian friends as not so fun, or they're just gonna like judge me for who I am. Like, we just have like nothing in common. Like, I go out and party, and in high school I got into smoking weed pretty heavy, and I was like, they don't even do that. Like, what would I even do with them? That was the thing. It was like the only thing that I did at the time, which seemed to be, I think, like a trend. It was just, you would get on your phone and you would text people, let's meet up and let's match. Let's match. And matching meant bringing weed together. Like, you have weed, I have weed, let's match and smoke together. That's all I did for years. Like, starting from like, I think my sophomore year all the way through my senior year. And it's crazy because when I did that, I still claimed to be a Christian. You know, like, all these hurtful things started to happen to me. I kept getting introduced to people stepping on my back or saying things about me that weren't true. This all started when, I would say, as cheesy as it sounds, I went through a very hard breakup my freshman year of high school. I would say that was like the pivoting point of hurt. There was a lot of drama that went with it, and to say the least, like, I felt like I just had nobody to lean on. Everything that I ever had, everyone who I thought like cared about me just didn't. So I rebelled, and I'm like, all right, I'm alone. I'm gonna do whatever I want, because at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter what I do, and I'm just gonna go smoke it off and go drink and just literally sorrow away and all this stuff, because that's exactly what I was doing. It may not have known it at that time though, because I'm telling you, like, when I would go out to the bars and take a shot and do whatever, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm sad. No, like, you're so overstimulated by the noise and the fun and the laughing that is so loud that you're blocked off by what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And I started realizing all this once I actually stepped into my faith the last 2 years. So this all stopped when, after graduation, I graduated in the class of 2021. So as you can imagine, COVID was 2020. I just wasn't in high school my last 2 years. Like, I was not like in the building. So I had all this like freedom to do whatever I want. That's when my parents' relationship got really bad, because I was getting invited to all these really fun things, because I knew a bunch of people at this time who were throwing parties that I really, really wanted to go to as a teenager, and my parents would tell me no, and I would just not listen. Like, I would just go anyways. So I would come home late at night, me and my mom would be screaming at each other, crying at each other, and I'm like, you just don't understand, like, you just like don't get it, I'm just like having fun. And there was nothing she could say to me that would get me to understand. What I was doing was wrong. Like, I truly just didn't get it. So when I turned 18, my mom kind of gave me an ultimatum. She was like, you can either live by my rules or you can move out. She did this with such a heavy heart, because it wasn't like, I'm kicking you out. She knew I had the money. And it's crazy, because at the same time that I was rebelling and doing all these worldly things, I was actually still a pretty hard worker. I was working at Amazon full time, so I would go in at 5 p.m. and I'd get out at 4 a.m. And I did that 60 hours a week. So I really worked hard. I was a very hard worker at that time, and I think it was because I had sports in my background. I swam in high school, and I did cross country, and I loved it. So working out was something I was used to, and got back into it, found a new love and passion for it. And that is when I met my boyfriend. When I met him at the gym, I was healing and didn't really talk to anybody, I would say. I would still use Snapchat, and I still had people I would like talk to who it was like, I think Snapchat is such a...
Dog alert.
I think Snapchat is such a, I don't even know, it's like a made up relationship. It's like, here's this app.
Fake.
Let's just send photos to each other and say absolutely nothing and do it every single day. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. I don't know how it even started. I remember using Snapchat in like 6th grade. You would literally like take a picture, say streaks, and send it to literally like 100 people. And that's when it started. That's when it started. It's like, oh my gosh, like, I need to have a lot of people. I need to have as many notifications on my phone from snapbacks feeling like I'm important.
Yeah, validate me.
Validate me. Like, I need people to be on my phone, or like as soon as somebody snaps me back, like I can't respond too fast. I need to wait a little bit.
Yeah, I'm busy.
And then I need to like make sure the picture's perfect and that I look good, or like the side face or whatever. I mean, it's like, it's so stressful.
Yeah.
And so bad for the heart and so bad for the soul. And doing that at such a young age, oh my gosh, it's actually really scary to me that I can look back at that feeling like that was years ago, even though I'm only 20, and that in reality it was only 2 years ago. It's so weird to me that I still have people my same age who are doing the same exact thing. And I'm like, how do you guys not see that this is so bad for your mental health?
But you did it though.
I did.
So you know how it feels like to be blinded in that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I just know the difference. I know the difference now, and it's just because of my faith. It's just like everything in the Bible is so true.
Yeah.
And it's not just like the words that are true, it's the understanding what they mean and practicing it. Because it wasn't until I stopped doing it, I can actually like look back at the different versions of my life. Like, you're never gonna know something unless you've experienced it.
Yeah.
If you've never experienced not using Snapchat for a year, you're not gonna know the difference.
Yeah.
So when I met my boyfriend at the gym, he was the complete opposite person as me. Never has he ever done any of the things that I've done. Like, he didn't understand it. I didn't open up about it. He taught me a lot about loyalty, not just, oh, you're a crush, or you potentially like might be a boyfriend, and still kind of talking to other people. Like, that just wasn't an option. So he really was like, if you want me, he didn't say this out loud. I don't know how I just kind of knew this was his thing. It was like, if you really want me, I think I respected him enough knowing that I cannot be talking to anybody on Snapchat. This was like a man I've never met in my entire life. He's 3 years older than me. I think he met me when he was 22. So currently I'm 20 and he's 23. I just had such respect for him, and I just like knew like this man is just so good. And I realized that I'm not. And I've never done that before. Like, I've never like actually looked at myself in the mirror and thought that I just like wasn't good. And it hurt. It definitely hurt. And I would start making myself victim immediately. I would just be like, well, you didn't know what I've been through. Like, these people did this to me, and these people did this to me, and that's why I did these things. And he's just so different because he's a cultured man. He is Colombia. He's Colombian. He lived in Colombia. He moved here. He grew up in a Hispanic family, and none of that was just like allowed to even get within their family. American culture really did me dirty. Like, it was just how I was raised. I'm not gonna blame it, but that's just like what I fell into, and how I lived my life on a daily basis, and the habits that I performed and got used to was all because of the decisions I made. And the decisions he's made, I mean, like, he just knew what loyalty meant and what a relationship meant, and what it meant to live a good, healthy life. And it wasn't like right off the bat that I stopped doing everything, but when we first started dating, I still smoked weed. He did not. And it was so crazy because when I met him, it was like the exact month I moved into my first apartment. So if I never met him and I started living on my own, God forbid, I would have thrown every single party I ever could in my house. That's why, I mean, like, that's not why I moved out, but why I wanted to move out was to be able to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
And at that time, I wanted to stay out late. I wanted to come home wasted and not have to hide it. I wanted to be able to just do whatever, invite whoever over, so we can just live free. Oh my gosh, that is not a free life. That is so so sad now. If I started living my life like that now, like I just like would have no goals in life. I would have nothing I'd be working towards. I would be constantly thinking every day, like, why am I even alive? What is the point in all of this?
Yeah.
It's because I don't have any actual self goals for myself. I don't know. Like, it's...
The irony is that we think freedom is like being able to do whatever we want.
Yeah.
But in reality, you're a slave.
Yes.
To your desires. So it's the opposite effect.
It's the complete opposite.
But true freedom is actually being able to say no.
Yep.
And discipline.
It's hard.
And do what's right. And
yeah.
It's harder, but in the long run, it leads to true freedom.
Exactly. It's very hard.
Yeah.
It was not overnight. And still to this day, I can sit here 100% and say, I would never smoke a blunt. I don't have any desires to do it. I don't even like drinking. Doesn't even sound like pleasing to me because I'm so far away from it that I just like don't have a reason to do it. But the enemy, if I smell it, those memories come back.
Familiar.
It's very familiar. It happens too frequently where I'll smell it and I am just like the memories of what it was like to do it back then. It's like I don't want to do it because I know what will happen, but it's such a mind game. It's so crazy.
It's pleasurable.
Yeah, but I just know if I did it, wouldn't. You know, because every time that I do now, like I don't remember the last time I smoked, but drinking, every time I drink, I just don't like it. I just like I feel like crap.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I even doing this? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't even seem like it's a social thing. I get it. It loosens people up. But like, in the end of the night, oh my gosh, I hate going to bed. I just feel like crap. I know when I wake up the next morning to get on with my daily routines of life, it's going to be harder because I don't have the same energy and mindset that I do that I work hard for. Waking up in the morning is already so hard for me.
It is.
But I do it disciplined because I know what I'm working towards. And it does not help if I drink the night before. There's reasons why I don't do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like when I smell it, I'm like, ooh, like it might be fun, but then it's like, no, it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
really not.
Exactly.
But I don't give my boyfriend all the credit. I don't. I truly deep down believe, like, and this isn't everybody's story, but I truly deep down believe, like, my mom has prayed for me a lot. My mom loves me so much. And she prays for me every single day, making sure that I'm safe and that like I'm protected, and like just God moves me, and just, you know, like as soon as she let go of the situation, that's when everything started to change.
Yeah.
She actually, when we were fighting when I was in high school, she did not really go to church. She did not really lean on God for the situation. And at some point, she went to the church, brought this up on the pastor. It was like, this is what my daughter's doing, and it's killing me. And I've tried, and I've tried, and I've tried, and I'm failing as a parent. I'm failing as a mom. I can't even like imagine what that feels like because I'm not a mom, but I would hate that. And she told me, like, as soon as she just like let it go and gave it to the Lord, that's when just everything changed. Like my mindset changed. I listened to my boyfriend because when we were fighting, I was like, you just sound like my mom. Like if I wanted to hear all this, like I would have just stayed with them, because he was just telling me like, smoking's not good for you. You shouldn't be drinking. You shouldn't really be hanging out with these friends or like whatever. And I'm like, you came into my life. Like you wanted to date me. Like what are you doing? And I didn't realize like how much I really like cared and knew he was right until he almost left. You know, like he pretty much did give me an ultimatum. He's like, if you do smoke one more time, I'm leaving. And I was so mad. I was like, if you really love me, you wouldn't be doing that. Like, how can you just give me an ultimatum? Like, that's so unfair. That's who I am.
Yeah.
I literally he put me in a spot of where I realized like my identity was in smoking weed. It was scary.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, no, it's not. It's just something that I like to do. But I mean, like, he's really about to leave me, and like, what's important?
Yeah.
Like, is this man who's gonna like actually like care about me and live a life with me and grow with me more important than this habit that I've grown onto that absolutely serves me in no way?
Yeah.
And it was just like in the middle of the night, we had this really nasty fight. He was about to leave. And in that exact moment, I blocked every one of my friends who I smoked with at that time. And it was little, it was only 3 friends. And I felt like I did it in the worst way possible. Because I think if I had if I had any regrets of any of the story, it was how I would have handled that differently.
You wouldn't have just blocked them without saying anything?
I had to for my sanity. Sometimes that's just the only option,
Yeah.
especially when you're hold on to something like that. It's like who you are is who you hang out with. And
That's
I
a
can't
theme.
hang out with them. Even if I stopped doing all that stuff, they just wouldn't get it. And I'm too vulnerable and still not fully understanding why I should quit. I just somehow knew that I needed to and came to this realization. So I just need to distance myself for a while until I can handle being around it. But I just couldn't hang out with them, so I just knew like the only way was to block. I just blocked them, and they were hurt. I was hurt. I still very deeply care about them, but I feel like I can't help in the back of my mind feel like I damaged them by doing that, because I was someone who they leaned on a lot. Like
Even
a
like
lot.
for faith, or just for advice, or
Both. Like they wouldn't like. It's only 2 friends actually. They wouldn't particularly ask me about Jesus or whatever. But when it came down to like advice and just kind of like what I would do and kind of just like calming them down in a way and just being a good friend,
yeah.
I just
Listening.
knew how to be a friend.
Yeah.
I would just say I would be praying for you, you know, and
Yeah.
I think saying that is very powerful. Even if somebody's not a believer, I think that you just know, like, okay, like,
Plants a seed.
yeah.
Yeah. So would you say that you still distance yourself from them?
I wouldn't ever be able to hang out with them again because to this day, they are in the exact same spot that I left them before,
Yeah.
and maybe even a little bit worse.
Well, personally, I don't feel like what you did was wrong. Like,
Yeah.
There's a thing that you have to do, and is set boundaries in life.
Right,
And
I just
until-
really didn't want to do it.
Exactly.
I really just didn't. To that day, almost over 2 years ago, I haven't had a single friend. Like, I've been very alone. I love my boyfriend so much, and he and I have grown drastically together. We, from that day, have really just lived our life in faith, prayed everything over our lives to the Lord, prayed for goals, asking God to show us why are we here? Like, what do you want us to be doing? Instead of just waking up every day and like having fun, going to work, like we're young, but what does that mean? Like, how should we use this young as an advantage? Which is like, okay,
Right.
you have the energy to work hard, read, learn, educate yourself, learn me, like learn my word, like go to church and just like embrace it all.
Yeah, what's my purpose?
Yeah, and that's what we've been doing. Like, we embrace this life, even if we have really hard days. There's a lot of them. But if you don't embrace the hurt and the hardness of life it doesn't hurt as much. Like,
Yeah.
you choose how something burns.
You accept it.
You accept it.
And you embrace it.
Yeah.
Just like Jesus embraced the cross.
Yes.
He didn't shy away from it. And
Yeah.
through that, he was able to find the strength to do it.
Exactly. And I mean, there's that story in the Bible where he went in the garden and he even prayed to the Lord, like, if there's any other way, like, please. But if it's your will, then
That's
let
humanity
it be.
right there.
Yeah.
And the Spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like kind of like, if it's your will, let it be done, not my will. And it's like, if you identify yourself in the Lord, he'll help you find a way.
Yeah. Well, that's why you'll never behave in a way that's separate from the way you identify yourself.
Yeah.
So that's why when you said, I identify as someone who smokes weed, your behavior reflected that.
Yeah.
That's why identity is so important to everybody. But we have an identity crisis in America, especially. We have, even men thinking they're women and vice versa.
Yep.
Right? Which is a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But the Lord has an identity for us that is to bless us, to solidify us in a world where there's chaos and always changing.
Mm-hmm.
His identity in us as righteous and saved by him
Right.
gives us the foundation to navigate all the hard situations in the world.
He just has me. There's been times where in my adulthood life, like, I've been fired before in a job and I was living on my own. I was living off my expenses, which I did not have a lot of. So when I got fired, I truly did not know where I was going to go next. But for whatever reason, the 3 weeks of me being like unemployed, I did not freak out once because I just like was such at peace that knowing like God was going to give me another job. I had to go out there and do job interviews and do the work to do it. But wherever he was going to land me in was going to be more fruitful than the last. And it was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, was it? Like, I just met so many more people. I made more money. It led me into real estate today because where my broker is at, that's who I met at my current job.
Yeah.
It's just like all planned out so perfectly. But if I've never been fired,
exactly,
that would have never happened.
You see the Lord play out in your life.
Yeah.
Through the mistakes even.
Yeah.
So like I even noticed that like through sin, like God even takes that and redeems it in our life.
Exactly. It's like, I don't know if it's like that quote, and I think it's so like misinterpreted so many times where it's like, oh, like when they say like God has a plan for you and he knows what's going to happen and he knew this and he knew that, I don't say that because God doesn't want us to sin, right? Like what happened to me when I got fired, I wasn't doing something I was supposed to. And I'm telling you, like, God didn't want me to be doing that, and I could have made a different decision pretty easily. But what he does do is turn all things into good. That's what I stand by, and that's what I live for. He can flip your life and turn it into good. And once you start living your life in faith, you see the good works that he's doing, and that's the plan that he has for you.
Exactly.
And he'll keep putting you on a plan that he wants for you, but he'll just use what has already been done.
Because he gives us free will.
Exactly.
Because he gives us dignity, because we're made in his image. So he doesn't want us to be robots.
Yes.
So the cool thing about God is that he gives us free will, but simultaneously works through our free will to glorify himself.
Yep.
And to grow us in our faith.
Yep.
Which is amazing, which is the same, like I think about that with the cross, right? God didn't invent crucifixion. The Romans did. For bad reasons.
Yeah.
To torture people. And he couldn't stop them from doing that. Like, I mean, that was their free will to do.
Yeah.
But yet he took that very thing that people used with bad intentions and used that the very thing to redeem humanity.
Yeah.
On the cross, right? So that always blows my mind. And like that's
know.
one thing I'm taking away from your story is that like you've gotten to points in your life where you kind of hit a rock bottom and like the rug's pulled out from underneath you.
Yeah.
And it causes you to be like, oh my gosh, I need to rely on God and I need to change what I'm doing because obviously it's not taking me in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so that's an encouraging thing is for believers and whoever's listening that's a non-believer too.
Yeah.
It's like God still loves you. He wants to have a relationship with you, even if you don't really know him yet.
Right.
He'll use things in our lives like getting fired, which has happened to me as well,
Yeah.
which was one of the main things that catapulted me to like, okay, I need to open the Bible. So even like the things that seem hard in our life are the very things God is using to get our attention,
Right.
which is amazing, right?
Right.
One thing I was interested about too was kind of what you were talking about at the beginning with your family. Is the one question I wanted to have you ask is like, because your father, your real father,
Mm-hmm.
right? You said that there's some tension there. How is your relationship with him now? And then did that affect you as seeing God as a father?
See, that's always, I think, the biggest unanswered question is that. Everything in my life I seem to have an answer for except for that. See, my dad, he is an usher man. He goes to church every single day and has not missed a single service. He struggles with addiction. He is a functioning alcoholic. But he goes to every single service and he believes in the Lord. And he's a very emotional man. I don't know why he struggles with addiction. I don't know why he makes the decisions that he does. But what has kept me sane in all of it is knowing that only God knows his heart. And I truly believe he will go to heaven because I know how much he loves the Lord. God doesn't call us to be perfect in any way. I think that is just his struggle that he can't seem to break out of bondage with. And I used to do this thing where I'd put all the pressure on myself, thinking that, well, maybe it's because I'm not praying hard enough for him. Because if I truly believed that God can do all things and lift this curse off of him, I don't know, like I would just make myself feel so guilty for not believing that God could do that for him. And I just like, that's so unfair. It's like, God can do all things. I'm not going to use my dad as a test.
No.
My dad makes his own choices at the end of the day. And I can pray as much as I can for God to just make him healed and realize that he needs to heal. But alcoholism is just such a hard disease.
What do you think about this? What do you think if you ever went up to your dad and said, "Dad, I want to hang out with you," and then have a conversation with him? What if you ever just like laid hands on him and prayed over him and even tell him that, "Dad, I love you, even though of the things you've done and the things that you still struggle with.
Yeah.
I just want you to know that I love you and I want to pray for you face to face with my hands on you."
Yeah, I mean, I've personally never done that, but I know, like, I still talk to him not every day, but, like, I'll call him, and I tell him I love him. We've never had a bad relationship. He knows that I know everything, in that I still love him. My sister, on the other hand, she broke off that relationship. She's getting married next year. He's not invited. And I knew we would get to that point, and here it is. It's very sad to see, but I know the church has prayed over him a lot for him and his relationship with his daughters, because he's very open about it. And they've just done I just like know that he's been prayed upon a lot. And I know that we personally, for years and years and years, have told him how we felt and have prayed for him in different situations and scenarios. But that like specific event that you mentioned, like, no, I've not done that.
I don't know. It's something to think about. Like, 'cause I feel like
Yeah.
if he heard that from his daughter, he would like wake up and just be
Yeah, I don't know.
touched by
I
that.
could, but like the last time it's like I've had to put up boundaries with him as I got older because it's like that childish like mentality. It's like, oh, like yes, like I can change, like if I only did this, I could change him, like cuz he's not allowed driving, so I took him to the doctor's once and I wanted to take him. Like he asked and I did. And when he was there, we both knew why, you know? But it's hard to talk to somebody who does not know they have a problem.
It's a complex situation.
Yeah.
That's
So
the hard thing.
it's like if I were to pray over him, he'd be like, why are you praying over me? Like this has nothing to do with this. Like it's just
tough.
it's hard.
Could you give anyone who's listening any encouragement that comes to mind?
Um yes. Life is hard. For sure. Life is hard, but God loves you. He loves you so much that he wants the best for you. And I think if only people knew that, they would care about themselves more and realize like they are so cared about in whatever hard things that people are going through. Like God wants far more for you than whatever is going on, and if only people really believed in that and they leaned on him and had faith in that, they could go so far.
Right.
Might not be immediately, but it would just relieve so much anxiety and stress. Whatever like next big thing somebody has. I know some people have problems with like change and it can be scary at times, but if you do everything and you lean it on God, it's just like he has you and he's gonna carry you in his palms. He is so powerful. When I was like a little girl, I used to think of God as kind of just like a friend, and he is a friend. There's so many ways you can think of him as. He's a friend, he's a father, but I think he's so cool in a way where he's all over the place. And when you think of thunder, like when you hear thunder and like storms, like that's how I think of him. Like he can demolish all evil. Like evil's scared of him. Like whatever is in your thoughts and anxieties, truly, like if I've used this prayer and it's been so powerful where it's like if you just like, Lord, replace my thoughts with yours, and if you declared like whatever you're thinking that's not positive and you know it's negative, like you just know it's not the Lord's thoughts, and it's just don't identify it with you. Like I feel like when people claim like, oh, I have anxiety or I have depression, like you're declaring,
then you're right.
Yeah, like you're declaring that as your identity. No, you need to go like, that's anxiety. That does not belong to me.
Amen.
And Lord, like replace my thoughts with yours.
I am loved. I am
I
cherished.
am loved.
I am
and
blessed.
just like words of affirmation.
Yeah.
But Christianity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you so
Big,
much.
I hope that you can get some good clips from this.
Yeah.
I did talk a lot.
You're great. You're a real one.
Appreciate it.